Hey everybody, my name is Myiesha and I'm a beauty director at Sephora, and this video is about doing your makeup or just kind of zhuzhing up yourself if you're doing a video chat, whether it's like work or maybe you're hanging out with your friends. This is sort of like little quick tips so you can do your makeup, I would say like in less than 10 minutes so that you look really fresh and you feel really confident and polished. Okay, so something that I've already applied is my sunscreen, and this is from Supergoop. This is the Unseen Sunscreen SPF 40. The reason why I'm wearing sunscreen and I'm inside is because it's actually has blue light protection. I also have a lot of windows in my apartment, so I wear SPF every single day, inside or out. I'll show you the texture of it. You can't really see it, so it works on all skin tones. And I'll put a little bit more on my nose, but you want to put a pretty good amount because it does have sunscreen in it. So I'm going to use foundation from Sephora collection. This is the Matte Perfection Full Coverage Foundation, and this is the shade 35. I like this one because it's very easy just to kind of slap on. Like, it's full coverage, but the way you put it on kind of dictates the coverage that you get. And my face is still sort of like moist or tacky to the touch. I find the more moisturizer I put on, sort of the smoother and more natural it looks. I'm gonna get a bit on the back of my hand. I'll be using my Sephora collection brush. This is the Pro Foundation brush number 64. It has this sort of like nice dense bristles at the bottom, but these sort of stippling hairs at the top. I find that I can build full coverage and it still looks really smooth. I have discoloration. Putting on a full coverage foundation is a lot quicker than sort of putting on something sheer and applying concealer. And since it's matte, I don't really have to touch up very much throughout the day. Kind of like in a buffing motion, sweeping it on. And then I'll go back where I need it and be a little bit more precise. I usually have a fuller coverage on when I'm at work, and I usually like a very simple glam, so I like to continue that, especially when I'm meeting somebody new, or if you have a job interview or something, or video conference. It's sort of important to be yourself. So I've applied a thin layer all over. Next, I'm going in on the areas that need coverage, and I'm just kind of bouncing the brush off my skin like a sponge. And this is allowing me to get coverage where I need it very quickly. Little scars right here from a breakout I had, so I'm just like being very precise and using the edge of the brush just to sort of push that in. Where I don't need a lot of coverage, I'm still sort of buffing and swirling so that it can be kind of sheer in those areas. If you've been inside for a while, you might notice your foundation might be a little bit too dark for you, so you can mix if you need to, maybe mix a little bit with your concealer. I wouldn't worry too much about the sides of the face because really you're seeing like straightforward. So if you have like little like things you want to cover here, or you normally contour your chin or jaw or things like that, don't worry about that too much. It's really just like sort of the straightforward look. Something that helps too when you're doing your makeup for a conference call or just any kind of video call is actually have whatever app or program you're using open so you can sort of check. I find that certain apps, maybe I look a little shinier or I look a little bit more bronze, or maybe the lighting is a little bit darker. So having the app open while you're doing your makeup is pretty helpful. So now I'm gonna apply a little bit of sort of a brightening effect in the center of my face. So I'll be using the same foundation in another color. This is the Sephora collection Matte Perfection Full Coverage Foundation number 29. And this is just a Sephora collection sponge. I like to work it into the sponge and then apply it to my face. I find that it goes on a little bit lighter versus sort of laying it down and then blending it. I find that I usually apply too much product. It's just creating a little bit of dimension in the center of my face. You can use concealer for this step, but I find foundation, especially this one, has enough coverage where I don't need to go that route. I find when I video chat, a lot of times it just kind of looks very one-dimensional. So I like to pay attention to applying my highlighter and my bronzer, which will come in a second, to make sure I don't look flat. Now I'm going to go back to the original brush that I used my foundation for, the number 64, and just kind of stipple or press over the edges. And having a little bit of that existing foundation on there helps to blend it really quickly. So I'm going to do a little bit of setting where I put that brightening foundation. So I really like using the KVD Vegan Beauty Lock-It Setting Powder. It actually has a little bit of a sheen and brightness to it. I've been using it for many years in the center of my face just because it gives an extra pop. So I'm very oily, and a lot of times I have back-to-back conference calls, so I don't really have time to touch up. So I use a good amount of setting powder so I don't have to bother with it in between. So I'll be using this angled blush brush from Sephora collection. This is number 93. If you have drier skin, I wouldn't really apply this much powder. It might be a bit much. So I'm just pressing it in so I'm not disturbing any of the coverage. And it looks really bright, but it's fine because we're going to be blending this in a second. Putting it everywhere that I put the brighter color of foundation. A little bit down my nose. Right down. God. And this is very quick when I do this. Like, I'm usually running late for conference calls, especially the first one of the day. I feel like I wake up right before the conference call, so you can do this so quickly. So I'm just putting it on my eyelids and my brows just so that when I put a little bit of brow powder on, it goes on nicely. You're basically putting this everywhere that you're not going to be applying bronzer. So I'm going to apply some bronzer, and this is from Anastasia Beverly Hills. And this is the bronzer powder, and this is in the shade Rich Amber. It's a little darker than I usually use for bronzer, but I'm gonna use it kind of sparingly and then blend it in really well. Think about your lighting in your home. If you have very yellow lighting in whatever room you're gonna be video conferencing, maybe you don't need a ton of bronzer because you're already gonna have this like sort of warm effect. So I'm gonna be using the same brush I used to apply that powder. It just has a little bit of foundation on it. Basically, I put it here and it looks crazy, but I'm gonna take a brush and blend it all together. I put a teeny bit across my hairline, just so I don't have like really bronzed cheeks and then my forehead's just kind of like disconnected. I take leftover, I don't dip back in, which is sort of the leftover on the brush, and I go on the sides of my nose. I don't really like to contour my nose, but that just gives it a little bit of color. Same thing. If your cheeks are super bronze and the outside of your face is super bronze and your nose is just kind of pale, it looks a little strange sometimes. You can pop a little in the jaw if you want. I'm actually gonna flip the brush over and use this sort of tip right here and just kind of bronze my eyelids. I have really vertically tall eyes, so if I don't wear any eyeshadow, sometimes it just looks kind of blank. So this helps it kind of come together, look a little bit more polished. So I'm just gonna take a brush and kind of blend this all together, mush it all together. You don't have to overthink it. You just wanna make sure your bronzer doesn't have any streaks on it. You're gonna blend that powder away. I'll be using the number 96 Pro Blush Brush. We have a few different blush brushes, different shapes and sizes, kind of depending on what you're going for, but I find they're so versatile. I use them all over. I'm not disturbing what I did. I just want to make sure it's all blended together. I put a lot of extra powder underneath my eyes. If you find that you did too much of the sort of baking thing, you can take that original brush that has your leftover foundation on it, no new foundation, but leftover foundation, and kind of blend it away. And it's up to you. If you normally wear tinted moisturizer, you can wear tinted moisturizer. But I find if I sort of go outside of my normal routine, it kind of takes me longer to do, or I don't look like myself when I'm sort of meeting the person virtually. So I usually just stick to my normal routine and simplify it a little bit. So now we're gonna apply a little bit of blush. So I like to wear a lot of blush. I feel like it kind of brings happiness to my face. I also feel like on video chatting kind of washes you out a little bit. So this would be a really good step to actually apply. Applying your blush inside and then going outside, it looks totally different. I like to have my computer open and apply my blush that way. So that's something you can do to make sure you have the right amount of blush on. So this is from Sephora collection, and this is the Trio Face Palette in Dare. There's a few different Trio face palettes. This one is more of the peachy one. It has a blush color, which is kind of peachy, and then it has two different shades of highlighter. I am probably going to use these on my eyes and just stick with the blush on my cheeks. I find I like to be a little bit more matte when I'm video chatting because I find that sort of in the middle of a conversation, I'll notice that I'm really shiny. So I like to hold up on the highlighter. So I will be using the same brush. I just blended everything in with the blush brush number 96, and I find these are super pigmented, so I'm gonna be applying and then blending. I don't know why, maybe I watched my grandma do it, but I always put a little blush on my chin and then I always put a little on my eyelids. Okay, so I think it's pretty blended. If you feel like it's not blended, same original brush and just kind of go on the outer edges. So I would wait for the final application of blush on the end, because once you put your lip on, you may find that you have too much blush on or not enough, so you can chill on that. Now I'm gonna just do my brows pretty quickly. These are very easy. These are from Anastasia Beverly Hills, and these are the perfect brow pencils, and I'm using the color medium brown and dark brown. The reason why I love using two colors, so your fill color should be kind of like close to the skin tone, not too dark, not too dramatic, and then the shade that you're going to use to sort of draw brow hairs should be a little bit darker. It should match sort of the darkest part of your hair. I'll be using the medium brown first. I have pretty sparse brow hairs, so I just comb them up and I start filling in. Don't really have to be very careful, and that's the reason why I use the lighter color. If I was using the darker brown to do this, it would be way too dramatic. This is probably one of the easiest, the most foolproof brow pencils from Anastasia, because there's a few different ones. This is sort of meant to be like the brow wax and powder mixed together. Something very easy to use. And something really cool too about the spoolie is each spoolie on the brow pencils from Anastasia Beverly Hills are different. So this spoolie is meant to sort of scrape away excess product, so you get that sort of like microbladed look. So if you're using Brow Wiz, for instance, that spoolie is a little bit more delicate. This one is sort of meant to quickly fill in your brow, so it gives you like a really pretty defined brow that looks like a lot more work than it is. So it's filled in. It's not perfect yet because I haven't gone in with that darker one, but it's a pretty good general brow considering I don't really have much brow hair. Now I'm going to do this one. So this brow is naturally lower than the other one, so I don't really stress too much about making them even because it's just the structure of my face. As long as they sort of meet at the same place and the arch is similar. Make sure you always relax when you're doing your brows. If you tend to like lift your brow a lot or you tend to frown because you're trying to focus, just try to relax as much as you can. Remember, like most video chat screens aren't very high resolution, so you don't have to be super perfect about this. Now I'm taking the darker one, and the first thing I'm gonna do is just draw little baby hairs at the beginning, just for some definition. I'm just very gently darkening that and then lightly brushing it again so it doesn't look too harsh. So it can give me that negative space look by sort of scraping away excess. Pay too much attention because I'm going to take a little concealer and quickly carve it out. Because most likely if you're at home, you're like trying to get some coffee, you're running around, you don't have too much time to do this. I'm going to take the same concealer I use in the center of my face, well, same foundation. It's pretty versatile. Just the teeniest little bit. This is the number 29, remember. I'm going to take a concealer brush. This is the number 45 concealer brush. It has this like really nice sharp tip on it. I don't like to do a very harsh outline on my brow. I'm using the bare minimum product here, carving it out and blending in. So if you already have a good amount of brow and maybe they're just too light or you just wish they had a little bit more like oomph to them, you can just actually do brow gel. So this is from Benefit. This is the Gimme Brow Volumizing Gel. This is really great because it kind of gives your hair on your brows kind of like a volumizing hairspray effect. It gives you some hold, it gives you some color, but it also has these little, like, I think they're fibers in it just to kind of make your brows look thicker. So totally optional, or you can skip what I just did with the two brow pencils and just brush this through. This is the number 5 color. I normally do a number 3, but I find when I'm video chatting, my brows look a little bit lighter, so I like a little bit more structure. I'm normally a winged liner type of person. That's when I feel most confident, but video calls, I feel like just getting the shape of it down with a very simple brown liner is good for me. This is from Urban Decay. This is the 24/7 Glide On Eye Pencil. This is the shade Demolition. It's kind of like a black brown, I would say. You can do a tight line if you want. Some people have more of a visible waterline. My waterline's not all that visible, so I usually do like a very small smoky liner. Where you can kind of see my waterline is in this inner corner, so I make sure I get that really well. I'm taking a small shadow brush. This is from Sephora collection. This is the number 15 brush. It's really thin on the sides and like a very small sort of size overall. And I'm just really gently blending that, and I am extending it on the outer corner just because I feel like my eyes look best that way. Just kind of balancing my face a little bit. And I think it'll make my lashes look a little bit thicker later. Or you can just take your finger and do this. It's very quick. So you don't want to pull your eye. I'm just pulling it taut so I have a little bit of traction. Hold on, I can't see. I'm going to take the teeniest little bit and put it on the outer edge of the corner. I don't really like a lot of bottom liner unless I'm wearing my full kind of usual eye. Blend it with my finger. Just because I find, especially if you have really fair skin or you've highlighted a lot, like your eye kind of like blends into your cheekbones. And just having a little bit of liner makes you look a little bit more polished. I'm gonna do a little bit of sparkle on my eyelids. I normally wear like a pretty easy but like done eye, so I just want to do a little something. Remember, this is the blush from the face palette and these are highlighters. So I think I'm going to dip in both of these just with a regular shadow brush. This is the number 14 brush. It's just ever so slightly bigger than the brush I just used to blend my eyeliner. I like to tap in the center just a little bit. And I don't want it to be like frosty. I just want it to have a little bit of glow. I'm just putting a tiny bit and kind of really blending it in. Something that's like very baseline for me, just so I look like really fresh and healthy, because I feel like when you look good, you feel good. So I will be using the Fenty Beauty by Rihanna Full Frontal Volume Lift and Curl Mascara. It has this sort of like cylindrical shaped brush that's kind of tapered at the end. It's super flat on one side and then it's a little fatter on that side, so you can really play with it. If you like more of a defined look, you can use the flat side. If you like more of a thickening look, which I do, I like my lashes as thick as possible, you can use the fatter side. I like to coat my lashes as much as I can, load them up on the second layer. So I coat my lashes top and bottom, and then I like to go in and just try to load it up as much as possible. And then I also do the bottom. I don't really like them to be too heavy. I just want them to be black, just so it doesn't look naked. I have really fine lashes naturally, but they're very, very fine in the inner corner. So I like to put a little extra mascara just to make sure you can see them. So I loaded up a few coats. I kind of lost count. I just kind of went to town until the mascara told me to stop, because I like super full lashes. If you're someone that likes more natural lashes, I would say 2 coats of this is perfectly fine. So I unclip my bangs just to make sure I can do my brows and my foundation. I'm gonna finish off with lips, so no need to have them pinned back now. So for my lips, I'll be using the Sephora Collection Jelly Melt Lip Tint. And this is in the shade Foxtrot. It's probably the most subdued color from the collection. They're super pigmented. I am more of a neutral lip kind of person. I like my lips to kind of coordinate with my blush, so it shows this color. These are nice because they're like a lip gloss that stains, so you don't need that much. Because they stain, I would just put 1 layer. If you're going for like a natural sort of look like this, you can really layer it until it's as pigmented as you want it. And next I'll be taking my Artist Color Pencil from Makeup Forever. So I use this all the time. This is one of my favorite pencils. You can use this all over, so it's not just a lip liner. So this is in the shade Endless Cacao. And just like I like my eyeliner, I really love lip liner. So I'm just using this just to give myself a little definition. It's kind of like contouring your lips. If you want it to be a bit more dramatic or super precise, you can do it before you put the jelly melt on. Doing it afterwards on top kind of has that jelly melt in between, so it doesn't adhere, so it's more natural, but it still gives you a nice shape. So I'm pretty much done. I loaded up on the mascara because that's my favorite part of makeup. Makes me feel super confident. If you're someone who really likes lots of blush or lots of lip, a bright bold lip, then go ahead and do that. It's something really powerful about feeling really good even when you're in your own space and you kind of feel like you shouldn't do too much. Like, go ahead and do it. You want to feel like you. And remember, check your makeup in the application that you'll be using to do your video conference. I feel like that always helps. Sometimes I feel like I have too much highlighter on and it's not enough. So go ahead and check that. Comment below, like, what's your favorite part of makeup? Like, what do you absolutely have to do when you want to feel your most confident? And we'll see you next time. Bye.